So as you mentioned earlier, let's talk about kind of the aftermath of this and the longer term thing for you and your family. How is it affecting you from day to day, do you think? Has it made a difference to the way you're living your lives? And how will you explain it to your children? Will you explain it to your children as they get older? I know they're very young at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. I'll answer the explaining it to my kids thing first. So I think because at the time they were 3 and 1, I don't think I need to address that particular situation. I think as far as they knew, I think because LJ did such a great job, and they're so young, there was no need for them to know something that didn't really affect them, or not in any way that they noticed. So, but I think what we have learned, though, similarly to what you were talking about, was it reframe?
The name, explain, and frame.
Name, explain, and frame. Yeah. We do communicate to the kids, particularly my daughter, who's a bit older, and we can talk about these things a bit more. When, okay, daddy's starting to feel stressed, and we do basically what you just said. I will explain to her, this is why I'm stressed. I just need a little bit of space now. You're okay. You've not done anything. I just need some space. And you'll often say, do you need to calm down? I said, yes, I need to calm down. You know your daddy very well.
You need to calm down.
But that's not something I think we would have thought to have done before. But I think we realised the necessity of doing something like that. In terms of how we are generally as a family and how I go about my day and so on and so forth, yeah, no, it has changed. I think going through something like that to me anyway, it has to change you. You've realised, right, I'm not immune to these things. I now need to have some boundaries in place, or at least some safeguards in place, in order to stop this from happening before, or at least to mitigate it from happening again. And I think the big encouragement I would give to people is that, kind of off the back of your question, you don't have a finite amount of willpower. You don't have a finite amount of bandwidth for these things, but you can exhaust yourself and clearly and put yourself in a situation where you might burn out or break down or whatever it is. But that doesn't mean that's now your limit forever, and you can never attain more than what you were doing at that moment. You just have to change the way you do that. And I've done that for myself, and I found ways that work for me. So a lot of what we've talked about a lot of this already, but to get a bit more particular, something that I've done is being a lot more essentialist about how I do things in work and how I do things in the things I volunteer in. So where I can bring the most amount of value to something, that's what I focus on. And I work out what are those few things that I can really bring my A game, and then everything else I don't have to do. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to say yes to everything. I don't have to go in and try and fix every single thing, because I am a bit of a perfectionist by nature. And I've learnt that that's not doing anyone else any good. That's not doing me any good. But the areas that I get most value, I can bring the most value, I can contribute the most amount of gain from, I focus on those things. So I'm actually not focusing on lots of spinning plates. Yeah. I'm focusing on spinning those plates very well. And everything else I don't need to worry about. In terms of, I mentioned earlier, I'm big on morning routines and things like that. I got to stupid levels at some point. At one point, I was like getting up at 5 a.m. and that's already daft. I got to go at 5 a.m. I got to do some breathing. I went full Wim Hof on a lot of stuff. I did the whole Wim Hof routine. I ice bathed. I did the whole, I got to do 3 minutes of breathing. I then got to make sure, what was one thing? I got to make sure I'm having turmeric in the morning. Got to have turmeric. Are you even living if you've not had turmeric in the morning?
Full bro science, basically.
Full bro science. Yeah. I went full mental with all that. And
stop listening to Joe Rogan so
absolutely,
much.
It's just, don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. And I've pulled back massively from that. So I'm not getting up at stupid o'clock in the morning so much. But I do see value in getting things done at the beginning of the day. So I've just narrowed it down to one thing. I try and get up, not so early, and I exercise. Exercise in and of itself, so good for you physically and mentally and emotionally. I think universally. What that looks like from person to person and when you do it, it's up to you. But I genuinely do believe getting something like that in when you can has made a huge difference to me. And just uncomplicating things and delegating things and realizing that I've said it a few times now, I don't have to do everything and I'm not the best at everything. just because I care about it doesn't mean I have to be the one to do it. And that has massively helped. And I'm in open dialogue a lot more about my emotions with LJ. I still struggle with it. The temptation to, no, I can bear with it, I can deal with it. And sometimes you can, and sometimes that is appropriate. I don't think you should overburden people sometimes, but you start to become a lot more attuned to your own stresses and stresses and what is making those spinning plates wobble. And it's being willing to communicate at those moments, right, I might need some help here.
So there might be some people out there listening to this who've had a breakdown or burnout or become stressed or whatever that is, and are feeling embarrassed by it, are feeling that it makes them a lesser man in some way. Maybe a lesser father. What would you say to those people?
I say there's nothing to be embarrassed about. There's absolutely nothing to be embarrassed about. And you are no less a man or a father for having gone through it at all. We all have our limitations. We all have our stress points. No one's above that. And I think being honest with yourself is no bad thing at all. You're creating more self-awareness. You're getting to know yourself a little bit more. Your areas where, okay, if I do too much of that, I'm totally going to trip up. And who does that benefit? That doesn't benefit you. That doesn't benefit your family. That doesn't benefit your friends. No one wants to see that. And you're actually less useful, if you want to put it that way, if you do burn out. If that's how you see yourself as someone with utility to bring to your situation. If anything, I would say a real man would look at themselves and be honest with themselves and know, right, I can't do everything.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed that or found it helpful, please do click the like button. If you're new to the channel, you can subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about all our latest videos. And finally, if you're in a position right now to support Care for the Family, you can do so following the link in the video description. As a thank you to you, we'll send you a load of resources for you and your family. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.